All right, so this week we are reviewing how to break down word problems. Each day this week we are going to take a different operation. So Tuesday's addition, Wednesday's subtraction, Thursday's multiplication, and Friday is division. We're going to be doing the same process with each of those operations. And our word problems will have all of the numbers that we learned about in the first semester. So they will have whole numbers, decimals, and fractions. These are the things that we're going to do with our word problems. So first, we're going to draw and label a strip diagram. Then we're going to write out our totals and our labels. And then we're going to solve for the answer. So right now, before we move on, I would like for everyone to take a second. I'm going to pause the video and I want you to write down this information about total and labels. All right, so what that means is this. If I read a word problem and I know the total, I'm going to subtract or divide. If I know that I need to find the total, my options are add or multiply. If my labels are the same, I can add or subtract. And if my labels are different, I multiply or divide. Now, this is something that you saw me do quite a bit when we were doing word problem breakdown videos in the first semester, but now you're going to practice it this week. Okay? So here's our first problem that we're going to work with. Okay? It reads, the table below shows the population of 4 Texas counties. And it shows Anderson, Dallas, Brazos, and Gray counties and their populations. And then it says, what is the combined population of these 4 counties? All right, so the very first thing I need to do is I need to draw and label a strip diagram. Okay, so here's my strip diagram. Okay, remember there are 3 parts to a strip diagram. Up here is always the total. Okay, and then there's part. Another way to call this is up here is the whole. Okay, and then you've got part within the strip. Okay, so what I know about this problem is I know these 4 populations. Okay, I also see this word combined. Combined is a synonym for put together or add. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm going to be adding because of that word. So I'm going to take these 4 populations and I'm going to draw 4 parts because there are 4 parts to this problem. Okay, now because these are such big numbers, instead of writing out the whole number in these slots, because that's just a lot of numbers, right? I'm just going to put an A for Anderson, a D for Dallas, a B for Brazos, and a G for Gray. Okay? So I know all of these populations. What I don't know right now is what the combined population is. Okay, so this is my question mark. That's what I'm trying to find. Okay, so I have now labeled and drawn and labeled my whole strip diagram. So the next thing to do is to talk about my totals and my labels. Okay, remember for the total, I'm trying to see, am I trying to find my total or do I know my total? So when I look at my strip diagram and I come up here and I see that the question mark is right here, well, that means that I don't know my total, which means I need to find it. Okay, so remember those things that you just wrote down. If I need to find my total, my options are to add or multiply. Okay, and now I need to talk about my labels. Okay, remember labels are talking about what is the meaning of the numbers. So 58,308 what? Okay, well that's population. Remember population is the same as people, okay, right? The people that live in those counties. So 58,308 people. 2,416,014 people. 197,632 people. 22,755 people. Okay, so you see how the label is the same for all of those? Okay, if my label is the same, you just wrote these down. If my label is the same, I add or subtract, right? So up here, I'm going to add or subtract. If my labels are different, remember that means I multiply or divide. Okay, so now that I've done my totals and labels, I look for the operation that is the same in both of them, which right here is addition. Now, because I drew the strip diagram, because I looked at this keyword up here, and because I did my totals and labels, I am positive that I am going to be adding to find this answer. Okay, so that's the last thing, is to solve. So I need to take all of these numbers and add them together. Well, up here in this graph, or in this table, they're not lined up by place value. So I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite them. And I'm going to take that bigger number and write it first, okay? And then maybe cross it off, okay? To remind myself I've done that already. So I'm going to take my next number, making sure that I am lining up my place values correctly. 197,632, 22,755. And then I add them together. I know that 8 and 2 is 10, and 4 and 5 is 9, and 10 and 9 is 19. I know that 3 and 5 is 8, 9, 10. Regroup my 1. I know that 7 and 3 is 10, plus 6 is 16, plus my regrouped 1 is 17. Okay, so I know that 8 and 2 is 10, plus 7 would be 17, plus 6 would be 23, plus 1 is 24. Let's see. I know 9 and 1 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17, plus our 2 is 19. I have 4 and 1 is 5, and 1 is 6. And then the 2 is the only place in the millions. So my solution here, the combined population is 2,694,709. All right, so now we have our second problem for this video. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw and label a strip diagram, do our totals and labels, and then solve it. So this question reads, Mr. Wilfred used a full 2-liter bottle of liquid soap to fill 2 soap containers. He put 475 thousandths liter in the first container. He put 35 hundredths liter in the second container. How many liters of liquid soap are in both containers? All right, so I'm going to draw my strip diagram. Okay, so let's see. I know that there's 2 soap containers. Okay, and I know in the first container, there's 475 thousandths of a liter. And I know in the second container, there's 35 hundredths of a liter. Okay, what I don't know, again, is what that total is. Okay, so now I'm going to do my total and labels. Well, I just said I don't know my total. Okay, if I need to find my total, my options are add or multiply. Okay, now I look at my labels. Well, 475 thousandths what? That's liters. 3,500ths what? Again, liters. If my labels are the same, I add or subtract. So I can see here through the strip diagram and through my totals and labels that I'm going to add to solve this. Now, remember that when I'm adding and subtracting with decimals, just like with the whole numbers, I need to make sure that I line them up appropriately. And that means to line them up by their decimal point. Okay? And then remember, if there's a place like this that does not have a 0, I can add a 0. Okay? Because remember, that does not change the value. If I think money, if I say that this is 35 cents, okay? If I add a 0 here, it does not change the fact that this is still 35 cents. Okay? Now, if I add any other digit after that 0, then yes, I'm changing the value. But I can add zeros forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and it will still be like 35 cents. So now I add these together. 5, 12, 8, making sure I have my decimal. So together, it's 825 thousandths of a liter of soap.